Hello friends, this is Dr. Ranjini, Assistant Professor in Biotechnology. Welcome to e-learning platform. Today we learn about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are biomolecules. These are defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones. These are biomolecules. They are having hydroxyl group and the carbonyl group is either ketone or the carbonyl group may be aldehyde. So the carbohydrates which are having hydroxyl group and the aldehyde as the functional group, they are called as polyhydroxyaldehydes, whereas the carbohydrates which are having the ketone as the functional group with one or more molecule of hydroxyl group are termed as the polyhydroxy ketones. So these carbohydrates are polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxy ketones. They are termed polyhydroxy because they have more than one hydroxyl group. And these aldehydes and ketones are the functional groups. These carbohydrates are produced by plants and form a large group of naturally occurring organic substances. The common examples are cane sugar, glucose, starch, etc. So these carbohydrates are synthesized from plants. The carbohydrates have the general molecular formula, that is CnH2O to the N. This formula make them to call them as the hydrates of carbon. They are termed as hydrates of carbon, from where the name carbohydrate was derived. They have the general formula CnH2ON, and since the molecular formula appears like hydrates of carbon, these biomolecules were termed as carbohydrates. The carbohydrates are formed in the plants. As I told earlier, these are synthesized from the plants by the process called photosynthesis. These are synthesized from the plants by the process called photosynthesis. The plants have the special mechanism of converting this solar energy or the radiation energy into chemical energy, that is glucose, that is nothing but carbohydrate. During photosynthesis, these plants, by utilizing the energy of the sunlight or the radiation energy, they fix the carbon dioxide in the presence of water in the chlorophyll pigment in the leaves to form the glucose. And along with that, they also releases oxygen. So the photosynthesis will convert the atmospheric carbon dioxide and the water present in the chlorophyll pigment into glucose and releases oxygen. And this process takes place in the chlorophyll pigment of the leaf, and this process is called as photosynthesis. Here there is conversion of radiation energy into chemical energy takes place. So this carbohydrate, that is simple sugar glucose, is the source of energy. It is the source of energy. So during the oxidation, this glucose releases the energy, that is ATP, and heat. And this is regarding the schematic representation of how the carbohydrates are synthesized from the plants. Hence, plants are very important to maintain the biosystem. Next is how carbohydrates are classified. These carbohydrates are classified broadly into sugars and non-sugars. These carbohydrates are broadly classified into sugars and non-sugars. Sugars are the substances or the carbohydrates which are sweet in taste and they are crystalline substances soluble in water. Sugars are sweet in taste, crystalline and soluble in water. The other group is non-sugars. As the name suggests, they are not sweet in taste and they are insoluble in water. They are insoluble in water. These are also termed as polysaccharides. These are also termed as polysaccharide. Carbohydrates are broadly classified into sugars and non-sugars. Now, sugars are further classified into monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, whereas these non-sugars or polysaccharides are further classified into homopolysaccharides and their heteropolysaccharides. Monosaccharides are further classified into aldoses and ketoses, whereas oligosaccharides are classified into disaccharide, trisaccharides and tetrasaccharide and etc. Homopolysaccharides are the polysaccharides. They will be made up of only one type of monosaccharides, whereas heteropolysaccharides are made up of more than one type of monosaccharides. Now we'll see monosaccharides briefly. These are the simplest form of the carbohydrates. This monosaccharide, in this term, mono means one, saccharide means sugar. The monosaccharides are the simplest polyhydroxy aldehydes or the ketones that cannot be hydrolyzed further. They give simple sugar. They give simple sugars. They are further classified based on the nature of the carbonyl group. Like if the monosaccharide has polyhydroxy aldehyde as the functional group, that is CHO as the functional group, they are termed as, such type of monosaccharides are termed as the aldoses. Whereas the monosaccharide which is having polyhydroxy ketone as the functional group, carbonyl group here is ketone, then such type of monosaccharides are called as ketoses. Now we'll see oligosaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest sugars that cannot be hydrolyzed further, whereas oligosaccharides are the sugars on hydrolysis, oligosaccharides produces 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. These oligosaccharides on hydrolysis releases 2 to 10 monosaccharides. Based on the number of monosaccharide units formed on hydrolysis, these oligosaccharides are classified into disaccharides, releases 2 monosaccharides on hydrolysis, trisaccharides releases 3 monosaccharides on hydrolysis, and tetrasaccharides releases 4 monosaccharides on hydrolysis. Like that, penta, hexa, like that they will be classified till decasaccharides. Decasaccharides releases 10 monosaccharides on hydrolysis. This is regarding the schematic representation of classification of carbohydrates. We will learn about in detail about the classification of carbohydrates in the coming video. I hope you understood the introduction about the carbohydrates and the schematic representation of classification of carbohydrates. Thank you.